Hey guys, welcome to the channel. Welcome back to another video. Let's have a conversation today about NVIDIA. I read something and I said I want to kind of let listeners or let my subscribers know what's going on if you read the headline today or this morning. And there was a headline that came out really yesterday talking about the fact that the CEO of NVIDIA is selling shares. And I think that some folks, I got a couple of comments, and some folks were like, "Well, what's going on? Why is the CEO of NVIDIA selling shares of stock at this time? What's happening?" And so I wanted to do a video just to quickly kind of share with you guys what's happening and why you see this going on. If you may have or may have not read the news or saw the news, let me see if I can actually pull up a story and find it and maybe just kind of go through it and just kind of share with you guys what's happening and what this means and what it doesn't mean. It's nothing to be overly alarmed about, but it's something that you need to be aware of as a stockholder or a shareholder of a stock like NVIDIA, one of these larger companies, because I know we have a lot of newer investors that are out there, quite a few newer investors that are out there. So it's important that you sort of know what's going on with it and why it's taken place. And so, hey, as you come in here, guys, let me know where you're coming from. Appreciate it as much as possible. If you can tell me where you're at, give me a thumbs up as soon as you get here and let me know if you can hear me okay, so that we can kind of dig into this real briefly so you guys can kind of understand what's taking place in terms of NVIDIA. Make sure you guys can hear me okay. Let's see here. I'm going to share my screen. Thanks for the thumbs up. Appreciate it, guys. So it says like this is actually today, right? Today's stock news: NVIDIA and Amazon insider sale and more. With U.S. markets closed for the 4th of July. Happy 4th of July to everybody as well. And I'll just kind of go through it real quick so you guys can kind of see it. The NASDAQ closed at an all-time high yesterday. Speculators returned to buying AI suppliers. NVIDIA gained 4.57% on Wednesday, yesterday, despite the CEO selling 1.3 million shares. Despite the CEO selling 1.3 million shares, he unloaded 1.3 million shares of his stock. And I'm going to explain why he did it so you guys can fully understand exactly what's going on and what takes place with some of these CEOs and why they sell some of their shares, okay? So CEO Jensen Huang took advantage of NVIDIA's stock rising by 226% from its 52-week low. He locked in on $169 million in stock sales between June 28th and July 2nd. Huang still owns 865 million shares, right? Then it talked about how the Amazon executive chair, Jeff Bezos, sold $25 million, 25 million shares of his company, Amazon, right? So what happens? What's going on with these CEOs selling shares and large chunks of shares of their companies, right? And again, this is not to alarm you or to sticker shock you or what do you call it, clickbait you. It's to tell you that you got to kind of know what's happening here, right? Yes, somebody said Nancy Pelosi picked up 2.1 million yesterday. You're right, she did, right? There's other stories out there about that. Hey, how you doing, Just? Good to have you here. Fear mongering. Let's see, drop the stock price. My brown skin Barbie said, we'll see, but let me kind of explain to it. I appreciate you that comment. South Holland's in the house. Good to have you. Got a family right there in South Holland, Illinois, by the way. Salt Lake City is here. Good to have you here. Baltimore's in the house. Detroit, thumbs up to you. Durham, North Carolina's in the house. Good city out there in Durham. Live in Quebec. All right, and have it. Happy 4th to you, AJ. The DC is in the house. So let's see. Hi, Indiana's in the house. Good to have you, Indiana. So let's kind of dig in just a little bit so we can get a feel for actually what this means and why are they doing that, right? Why the NVIDIA CEO, Jensen Huang, sold a bunch of shares. So right now, I think the stock price is hovering around what, 128? Let me take a look real quick. Yep. The stock price is hovering around 128 per share. And matter of fact, let me just pull that up real quick, guys. And you guys know how I operate sometimes if you've been on here before. I like to kind of share my screen a little bit. And welcome in, by the way, guys. Glad you're here, and thank you so much for coming around and hanging in with me today. I think a lot of people are off today. I'm off work, so I said let's talk about this article, or let's talk about what's happening so we can see it in real time. Let me actually pull up and share my screen with you real quick, and just look at where the stock price is today. I know we got a lot of folks in here that are NVIDIA investors, so let me share my screen with you and get a feel for where the stock price is right now. Let's see. Okay, so stock price is, right at 128.28. And as you notice, I got it set on 6 months here. We're still up. We're still up, right? We've seen since the stock split took place, we've seen kind of some rockies. We got really high at, I think, 135, went down a little bit, dropped down to 118 back on June 24th, about 10 days ago or so. And we're kind of steady. We're kind of steady. We've seen a little rise in the last couple of days, of course, right? But at 128.28, this is, I think they said, a 4.57% increase from the previous day, right? So we are kind of seeing sort of a trend up in the stock, and the stock has seen obviously tons of growth over the past year. We know that, right? We flipped over to the year, boom, we see tons of growth. Year to date just means since January 1st, right? So year to date, the stock is up like 159%. Huge. Year over year, right? So in 1 year, year over year, since last year at this time, the stock is up 202%. So it's experienced lots of growth still. There has been a little bit of fluctuation since the stock split. We do know that, right? Reached a high about 2 weeks ago at $135 per share, $135.58 per share, back on, I think, June 18th, 2 weeks ago, a little more than 2 weeks ago. And then we had a little bit of volatility late June, but that's cool. Not a big deal. It happens. Okay. We know that they've also introduced some new products, right? Some new gaming stuff has come out recently regarding NVIDIA. We also know they have a shareholders meeting coming up, another earnings report in August. I anticipate, let me give you my opinion before I dig a little deeper on why he purchased so many shares. I anticipate that the stock will continue to go up slightly as we get closer to the earnings report that's coming out. So as we get closer, I think that's going to happen. And I also think we're going to have a positive earnings report, which a positive earnings report is going to mean probably a slight spike I won't say spike, but a slight increase in the stock price. Okay. So we're on an upward trajectory if you own this stock, right? But the NVIDIA CEO, Jensen Huang, he said, hey, wait a minute. I'm going to cash in on this sort of rally, right? But, and it's the most he's netted from a sale of stock, right? Since he's, owned the company. But here's what happened. The sale of the stock, and this is what you got to know as an owner of the stock, okay? The sale of the stock and the sale of Amazon stock by its CEO, Jeff Bezos, were part of what they call a trading plan from March of last year, guys. And so NVIDIA CEO, he sold a bunch of the stock based on a plan to get rid of the stock that was already established. So he sold the 1.3 million shares over the past week. And if you read in these news stories, it'll say something like, Jensen Huang, CEO of NVIDIA, took advantage of the 155% price surge that it's experienced. Now, he didn't just do this off the cuff, right? So NVIDIA shares, we know it, they went up, they're on an upward trend, and he got, $169 million from it, right? Between June 28th and July 2nd. And it's a specific form that they have to file and fill out with the SEC, right? Now, they sell them over the course of those days, June 28th to July 3rd, and the price fluctuated during those sales. So some of those sales were sold at $119 per share. I mean, some of the sales of the shares were sold at $125 per share, right? But it's been this is why it's kind of news, is it's the first type of this type of sale by the CEO of NVIDIA this year. And his company, you know, obviously their CPUs, their GPUs, their AI, they're all over it. But, you know, and we also know that the market cap went over 3 trillion last month. It went over 3 trillion, and it kind of joined Apple and Microsoft in that $3 trillion club, right? But he had to sell them because of a previous, it was a pre-CEO sale that was already sanctioned by the SEC, right? And he's been selling these shares of stock in what they call it. They call this like a 10b5-1 plan. The SEC has set up these 10b5-1 plans, right? And they set them up last March. And what it does is it allows executives and insiders to sell shares at a predetermined time to avoid what they call any funny business for insider traders, right? So some people look at this and they get a little alarmed. Oh my goodness, what's happening? Why is he selling these shares? Well, it was predetermined based on the plan, the plans called the 10b5-1 plans from the SEC, right? These were predetermined times to sell the stock to avoid the appearance of improprieties based on insider trading, right? So that's why he sold the shares. He's still he's still the largest shareholder of the company, right? So you don't have to have any immediate concerns about NVIDIA or the stock price or the stock going down based on the fact that the CEO is selling shares, right? Guys, yes, do me that favor. Thank you, Ben Frank. I appreciate it. Hit the thumbs up button for me. Just tap that little thumb for me in the bottom of your screen, and just, you know, get them up, guys. Thank you, Mrs. Moore. I appreciate it as well. So that's what we got to realize is happening. We got to know, hey, Liverpool, England, good to have you here. Yes, smash that like button. I appreciate it. St. Louis is here. Atlanta's here. San Antonio's here. Good to have you here. Happy 4th to you, LD Sims, as well. Montreal, Michelle is in the house. Good to have you, Michelle, from Montreal. Let's see here. I sold before it dropped. Yes, gaming. I only own a few shares of NVIDIA, not very much. I only own a few shares of NVIDIA. Again, I have been a long-time ETF index fund investor. I am just full disclosure. I've had some single stocks for years, right? But I've just decided to start digging a little deeper into individual single stock sales, purchases. And so over on my other platform is where I'm going to be doing a video, maybe this weekend coming up, doing a video digging into my plan and letting you guys take a look a little further in the background of what I'm doing in terms of single stock. So, but I only own a few shares of NVIDIA, not very much. Somebody said, I went to Apple and I'm staying. Good. Nothing wrong with Apple. Apple's cool. I don't invest in Apple. Nothing wrong with investing in Apple, but I don't really own Apple. Let's see. Apple has one more 10-year run in them, but it's a wrap. Yeah, Ben Frank, I think you're right. I think Apple's been, you know, but companies don't stick around rarely, especially in the technology space, for as long as some of these companies have. We see Microsoft has been up there for years and years and years and years and years. But as we talked about before, guys, the top 20 companies in the S&P 500 today were not the top 20 companies in the S&P 20 years ago, right? So I think there's one. I think Microsoft is still there. I got irritation in my eyes, guys. Bear with me. I'm sorry. But yeah, hit that like button again. Like I said, guys, appreciate it. But I want you guys to know about the fact of these 10b5-1 plans. It's just okay. Let me actually pull it up so I can tell you exactly what it is, so I can read it verbatim, right? The 10b5-1 plan is a written agreement between a corporate insider and a brokerage firm. Now, in this case, the corporate insider is Jeff Bezos or Jensen Huang. In the case of NVIDIA, the corporate insider is him. And it's a agreement between the corporate insider and a brokerage firm that allows the insider to make pre-planned trades in compliance with insider trading regulations. So the SEC regulates the trading of shares of stock from insiders. Why? Why would they do that? Why does the SEC care to regulate the trading of stocks of insiders? And when we say insiders, we're talking about people that are within the company, like the executives that know what's going on. They know more than we know. Why would the SEC feel the need to regulate that? Right? Why would the SEC feel the need to regulate insider sharing, sales of trades, sales of stock, sales of shares? Why would the SEC want to do that? Right? The bears are all over NVIDIA. Let's see. I'm up 16% when NVIDIA, but 47 with the green with Tesla. Okay. Hey, sunset on the ocean. Good to have you here. Buy. Some people are upset that they didn't get in earlier. It's okay if a CEO cashes in some stock. It's the nature of investment. Absolutely. Excellent, Mike. Thanks for pointing that out. This is what happens. This is not normal. This is not abnormal. CEOs sell shares all the time. But sometimes people that are new investors, they see this and they get alarmed. Right? So why would the SEC want to regulate insiders that want to, plan to sell? The reason is obvious, guys, right? And I'm saying it. I'm asking the question, sort of a rhetorical question, right? But the SEC wants to create some type of regulation over the insiders trading or insiders selling their stock because they know more information than us. We are outside retail investors. We don't have inside information about what's going on with NVIDIA, right? And because the CEO, Jensen Huang, has insider information about NVIDIA as the CEO, as an executive on the inside, he may manipulate and say, oh, we're about to face a $17 billion lawsuit. Let me get rid of my shares of my stock immediately. And we on the outside don't know that. And so to kind of avoid some of those issues, the SEC steps in and says, hey, we want to create these plans called 10b5-1 plans that allow an executive or an insider to sell their shares at predetermined times to avoid any shenanigans that may go on with insiders getting rid of shares. Right? Again, it's a written agreement between a corporate insider, like a CEO, Jensen Huang, and a brokerage firm that allows that insider to make pre-planned trades that are in compliance with the SEC regulations, right? The plan usually details the number of shares to be sold, the specific price or time, right? In this case, it was time, June 28th through July 3rd. And it usually goes on for many, many months, right? So it's a written plan, okay? And it was predetermined. This is not Jensen Huang saying, oh, let me cash out. Let me hurt and cash out before. In this case, it was a written predetermined plan, right? So that's really important. It's prearranged, guys. Comes from the SEC's, the Securities Exchange Act of, I think, 1933 or 34, right? So that's what's going on. That's why NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang is selling NVIDIA stocks, not to alarm you, not to cash out and leave the company and go sit on an island somewhere, right? And, this way, the executive like him, he can get rid of his shares of stock, cash out, or whatever, without that transaction being overly influenced by any other what they call a material, non-public information that they might know that we don't know. And it sort of keeps everything on the up and up, right? Remember, these executives, these CEOs, they're called insiders, but they oftentimes get compensated through stocks, right? So one of the ways that they cash out, right? Keep in mind, NVIDIA is still super duper dominant. And I know that some of the fervor and push and hype about NVIDIA is kind of died down a little bit as their stock price has kind of leveled off in the last month or so, right? But it's still the number one. Listen, that doesn't change the fundamentals of the company. It's still the number one AI technology company in the world. And it does have some competition with Microsoft and Apple. We know that, and AMD and Intel and Qualcomm and all those, right? But you got these insiders that every now and then they want to cash out. Jensen Huang, uh, the Crest lady, Colette Crest, right? You got these large institutional shareholders, what we call institutional investors. These are the big boys, the people that have millions of shares of a stock, right? Vanguard and BlackRock, they have tons and tons of shares. They own a lot of NVIDIA as well, right? Right. Yeah, but you're right. The Walla Malla. It's some of this fever over NVIDIA died down because you got the focus on Apple, the focus on Tesla, the focus, little bit of focus on Broadcom, right? You got to remember also, guys, NVIDIA is not the only company that's that is benefiting from this AI boom, right? That's a good question. YSSD said, where can I find the dates of CEO sell-off? I'm not sure. We'd have to Google that. It might be on their site, YSSD. If anybody knows the answer to that question, let us know. I don't have the answer to that question, but it's a great question. Appreciate you asking that. Anyone know the dates of the CEO sell-off based on the 10B51? Let's see. I bought some NVIDIA before the stock split, Roy Jones said. Fantastic. The Walla Malla. Let's see here. Happy July 4th to you, Tatiana, as well. Let's see here. Bears are a problem because unjustified negativity causes people to sell. Hey, as an investor, okay, one of the pieces of my plans as a continuing, ongoing individual stock investor is to look for bad news from good companies. That's part of my strategy moving forward, is to look for bad news from great companies with great fundamentals, right? Because bad news from great companies, that indicates that, there's a company that could be undervalued, might be trading at $90 per share, but it's probably worth $110 per share, right? That's part of the strategy. When I'm on my checklist, my individual stock checklist is to look for those types of companies, those companies that are fairly valued or undervalued, right? And part of that comes when you get this big news or bad news. Big news, stock split coming up. Oh, stock split coming up. Boom, things are going to surge, like what happened with Broadcom, like what happened with Chipotle, right? Big old stock split, I'm in, right? Let me just take a look at something real quick. Let me see if I can figure this out here real quick. Let me see. Broadcom announced a stock split about about a month ago, and then they got a big surge. Let me show you what I'm talking about, guys. And if you're not tipped up, if you're not hip on Broadcom, you probably need to be, right? Not that Broadcom is some big, behemoth. It's a big behemoth, right? 11th or 12th largest company in the world in terms of market share on the exchange. But I'm sharing my screen right now if you guys can or can't see me. But Broadcom, if I can find it, there it is. Broadcom, they had a big jump. Here they are back on June 12th at trading at $14.95 per share. Announced a big stock split. They went up to June 12th. June 13th, they were trading at $1,678. So they had almost 170, 165, maybe 160 price per share jump when they announced a stock split. So a stock split is one of those events that causes people to get excited about a stock. Or if there's bad news, right? That is a big one too. Like we see what happened with let me stay with Broadcom real quick. Okay, so Broadcom year to date, if you look at them, let's see, year to date, January 1st, they were trading at $1,085 per share. Today, they're trading at $1,700 per share. That's an enormous increase, right? down from their peak of $1,800 per share, 1828. But look, you're talking about that's incredible growth. Don't sit up here and think that it's just about NVIDIA, right? It's not just about NVIDIA, right? Let's do that same deal and let's look at Apple, all right? Apple stock. And I'm looking at these to try to just point out a few things to you guys to say, hey, you know, these things, this AI boom is widespread. Year to date, Apple started off at 184 per share. They dipped all the way down to about 165 per share, but now they're trading at what, 221 per share. So started off the year at 181, now they're trading at 221. Imagine if you had 100 shares of Apple, right? So I just wanted to say, because somebody mentioned it, I like to do things on the fly sometimes. Somebody mentioned it, hey, there's other companies out here that are benefiting from this boom. But NVIDIA has been the big player. NVIDIA has been the big player because NVIDIA is in almost everything. They're everywhere. And they ain't losing it no time soon, losing their grasp, right? They're coming out with new products and announcing new things every single, almost seem like weekly or every, at least once a month, right? And somebody also mentioned, let me point this out because this is very important as well, guys, that the Mag7 has been carrying the stock market. If it hadn't been for technology over the last really 10 years, but over the last, 2 or 3 years specifically, especially I say 2 years, right? We know the market was way down back in 2022, but the last few years, couple of years, guys, technology, AI, big Mag7 carrying the stock market. And some people said, somebody asked me a while back, they said, well, why don't you invest in small caps, right? Why don't you have any small cap ETFs? Or, look at the performance of a small cap ETF over the last 5 or 10 years. Small cap ETFs haven't been, or small cap firms in general, haven't been doing much of nothing. I think they may make a comeback soon, but man, technology is killing the game. NVIDIA is leading the calls. Healthcare, drug discovery, automotive and self-driving cars and manufacturing and finance, fraud detection, all over the algorithms, all over the Instagram, Meta uses NVIDIA, right? The gaming industry, which is a $300 billion industry, bigger than the gaming industry is more than twice as big as movies and music combined. Combine music and music and movies, combine them together worldwide, combine them together, and then double that, and that's gaming, right? Gaming is so huge, right? And NVIDIA has been right in the midst of gaming. They just put out a new product. I think I read a story here, if I can find it. They just put out a new product for gaming, right? Where's it at if I can find it? Here it is right here. Let me share my screen real quick, guys. I like to share the screen. You guys know that. Let's see. So let me share my screen real quick and see if I can't show you this, right? This is an article just written yesterday. Was it yesterday? Yeah. No, today. This is an article today. GeForce now beats the Heat with 22 new games in July. Start with the 4 new games coming to the cloud this week. GeForce, this is NVIDIA, is bringing 22 new games to members this month. Dive into the 4 titles available to stream on the cloud gaming service this week. Plus, get some boom, 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 bada bing, bada bing. You get what I'm saying, right? You get what I'm saying. And again, gaming is double music and movies combined. What does that tell you? Right? I don't know. Do we have any gamers in here that are into gaming? GeForce is a brand of graphics of GPUs, graphics processing units designed by NVIDIA and marketed for the purposes of marketing. So we look back at what we were just looking at, if I can find it. Nope. Can't find it. I think I missed it. But new games, right? New GPUs to support gaming by NVIDIA. Article written today. They ain't going nowhere, right? Not to mention telecommunications. Of course, the data centers, right? Where it's it's a space of these big old mainframe looking computers that supports AI, energy, smart grids, oil and gas industry, not to mention gaming, as I mentioned, right? Agriculture, they're everywhere, right? And they've got these generative AI platforms. You look up Google right now. You go to Google, right? There's AI. Not that that's NVIDIA, but there's AI. Some of the technology could be NVIDIA, right? Or is. But their software, their hardware, their data centers, GPUs, CPUs, self-driving cars, robots, AI models designed to do everything. They're out in front of everything. So they ain't going nowhere, right? And just because they've sort of flatlined, and just because the CEO sold off shares, that's pre-planned. Not a big deal. Don't be alarmed. I got a message yesterday. And somebody said they read the story. So I pulled it up and I looked at it and I said, well, wait a minute. And then I did a little more research to say, okay, this is part of a pre-plan. And that's why I'm doing this video, right? I did another video that you guys might want to think about checking out too. The fact that NVIDIA has competitors, guys. I don't want you to think it's all about NVIDIA, right? So this was not anything to be alarmed about. It wasn't anything to get all tripped up and like, oh my goodness, what's happening? I just dropped, $3,000 or $10,000 into NVIDIA, and now he's selling off share. It's normal. It's normal. NVIDIA has, like, I think in terms of AI, some folks say about 70 or 80% of the market share in the AI space. All right, 70 or 80% of the market share, depending on what area. They're in semiconductors, they're in all different types of areas. And so some of their market share varies depending on what area of AI we're talking about. Nobody talks about Adobe, and it's gone up $112 a share in the last month. Yeah, Adobe's had a nice run too, right? I don't own Adobe yet, but I'm thinking about Adobe's they're on the short list, right? I do use Adobe products and have been using them for 5 or 6 years, and so I think they're a good company, but I got to look at the fundamentals, right? You guys, you got to do me a small favor and hit that like button for me. All right. Just tap the like button for me. Stop what you're doing, because I'm about to ruin the image and the style that you're used to. Just kidding, guys. That's an old rap song, right? But please stop what you're doing. I got a bad sense of humor, right? But listen, please hit the thumbs up button for me, right? Just tap it. If you know somebody that has NVIDIA stock or is interested in investing in NVIDIA or technology, send this link to them real quick. But I had to come on here and have the conversation because I don't want you guys to overreact, because I know a lot of people have jumped on the bandwagon for NVIDIA, and I want you to relax a little bit. Don't get in a tizzy like the person that sent me that email yesterday, and they were like, hold on, wait a minute, something's going wrong. Boom, boom, boom. Right? I'm going to go back to the chat here, guys. Let's see here. 1/3 of the market. Nintendo Switch equals NVIDIA. And their new Switch 2 coming is NVIDIA. ET Videos, you're right. You're right. So it's still not too late to buy NVIDIA. It's still not too late to buy NVIDIA, guys. It's not too late. I'm telling you, some folks are projecting $165 per share by the end of the year. Some folks are projecting a $200 per share by the end of the year. You're looking at NVIDIA today at $128. That's still a bargain. That's still a bargain. Somebody said, let me see if I have this this question right here by the One Man Blues Conspiracy. Said, can I rate my Mag7 in order? Let's pull them up real quick. Can I rate the Mag7 in order, in my order of what I like the best? Okay. What is the Mag 7? Let me figure out exactly who's in the Mag 7. I think we know them, but let me just pull it up to see what we got here. See if I can get a nice solid list right in front of me. Mag 7. Tesla hasn't made it back up, have they? I think, is Tesla back in the Mag 7? I think Tesla is were they 11th or 12th? Okay, so Mag 7, I like NVIDIA. I've done most of my research on NVIDIA, and I like NVIDIA the best out of the Mag 7, right? I can tell you that up front. I'm not a fan of Apple. I think Apple ultimately has a shelf life. That's my personal opinion. I think Apple ultimately has a shelf life. Now, I know that's a weird thing to say. I'm not no analyst. I'm not going off of what I'm telling you what I think. Everybody doesn't own Apple, and I know Apple plays in a lot of spaces. There are people that are vehemently against Apple. When I say vehemently against Apple, I think that's the right word. It's a fancy word. It's a college word, right? Vehemently. But I think there's people that absolutely do not like Apple, don't want Apple, don't want to deal with Apple. Me, I have no Apple products. I have zero. The last Apple product I had, or I even worked on, was 1989 when I had my first college class, a computer class. We had Apple computers back in 1989. I have never owned nothing, right? So I don't have. So I think Apple would be. And listen, we're talking investing. Apple might be great. They might be number 3 or 4 on this list for me in terms of what they potentially could do. But me personally, I don't own Apple. And I think Apple has not a shelf life, but I think they have a ceiling, because when I say a ceiling, I mean, there's people that don't want Apple, right? But I can't think of anybody that says, no, I don't want to have an NVIDIA product, right? So NVIDIA, I think, is number 1. I think Google, or what we call Alphabet, I think they're high on my list. I think that Amazon is high on my list in terms of Mag 7. I think Meta, similar to Apple, they have a shelf life because there's people that absolutely don't want to have anything to do with Meta. And I think Meta is one of those firms, or one of those large companies, that is a lawsuit away, a major problem away from dipping down, my opinion. Because, okay, Tesla, Meta, and Apple, they can be sort of polarizing in the space of everyday life. Some people love them, some people hate them, right? Because obviously Tesla's CEO, people love him or they hate him. Apple, people either love Apple, buy Apple, or they hate Apple. They don't want Apple. They don't have anything to do with Apple. Meta, because it's tied to Facebook and Instagram, other social, people either love them or hate them, don't want to be a part of them. But everybody uses Google. Everybody uses NVIDIA products, right? So I think that is the difference when I look at a lot of folks use Microsoft, right? But Microsoft can be sometimes different than Apple. But the point is that that's what I look at when I look at the Mag 7. Call me strange, call me weird. No, I'm not Kramer, but that's my take on the Mag 7. Those polarizing Mag 7s, I think, can easily fall out of the Mag 7 before the less polarizing Mag 7s, and therefore I give them a nod when I'm ranking Mag 7s, if that makes any sense, right? Hope that answer. That was a long answer, but I hope that made sense at all. GeForce. So we got some GeForce people in the house. Gaming fell off the map. Who said gaming? The Walla Mala. What do you mean gaming has fell off the map? No way. No way. Gaming's not going nowhere, right? A recent study by McKinsey found that the average lifespan of companies listed in the S&P 500 was 61 years. Yeah, that sounds about right. I wonder what that same study, might say about the lifespan of companies in the Mag 7, right? That might be a shorter That will be a shorter time frame than 61 years for sure. And I'm way behind, guys. You know that. I'm going to skip a bunch. Let's see here. Oh, Humpty Dance. Yeah, the Humpty Dance is your chance to do the boom, boom. I used to listen to a lot of music, not so much anymore. But anyway, how much should we have invested in the individual stocks and ETFs? I have 2 shares. Hey, if you have a question, that's great. Ask the question. I'll do my best to answer it. Put a Q next to it, guys. How much should we have invested in the individual stocks and ETFs? I have 2 shares of VOO. Now, Ty, you said you have 2 shares of VOO. This is going to depend on what is your goal for your investments. Okay. What is your overall investing philosophy? You got to have Okay. You don't want to be investing without an investing philosophy, your core beliefs, your core values, then your strategy, right? What is your goals, your core beliefs, and your strategy? Your goals, your core beliefs and values, and then your strategy. Before you go investing, try to come up with those things, because those things are going to drive a lot of the answers to how long, how much, etc. And then think about your age, your risk tolerance, etc. You got to do some thinking about these things before you invest. So when you ask the question, how much should we have invested in the individual stocks? I think you're saying versus ETFs. That depends on you personally. Your personal portfolio depends on your preferences, depends on your risk tolerance level, depends on your age and when you actually want to have access to the money that's increasing in value, right? The assets, right? All of that is dependent upon you. It's individual. So it's good to have some individual stocks. That's cool. And it's good to have some ETFs. But guess what? You could just have ETFs. That's it. You don't have to even invest in individual stocks to grow your money, to grow your wealth, to grow that asset, right? 2 shares of VOO. I think VOO is the S&P 500 from Vanguard. Is that enough? Is that enough for what? What's your goal? Do you want to grow it into $1 million? Probably then 2 shares is not enough. You're probably going to get more shares, right? But you got to mirror up with your actions in terms of investing, matching up to your goal, values, strategy, time frames, risk tolerance. All those things have to match up to that. So there's no clear answer to that, Ty. I hope I tried to answer it as best I could. I hope that was good for you. Let's see here. Somebody said I got it at 119, may get more soon. Apple, Microsoft, Google, parent, Alphabet, Amazon. Oh, there they are. That's our. Oh, so Tesla is back in the Mag7. Okay. They fell out, right? They had a big time dip. Since we're talking about Tesla and I brought up Tesla, let me go to Tesla. I want to take a quick look at Tesla, guys, if you don't mind. So bear with me, guys. This is a day that, a lot of us are off work. Some of us have some plans scheduled for later in the evening to celebrate the Independence Day for America. Some of us don't, and that's okay too. I know there's a lot of folks that don't celebrate it, that maybe not even in the country, and that's cool too. It's totally up to you, if you celebrate or don't celebrate. Let me share my screen with you guys real quick. I want to look at Tesla real quick to see what's going on in Tesla. Doing a little research for some of you guys. I'm not digging into the specifics and particulars. I'm just looking at kind of the general overview. Tesla's up to 246. Let me see. In the last 6 months, they had a big dip all the way down to 142. Now they're back up to 246. So they're having some success. Year to date, they had this ginormous dip in the middle. Everybody was like, oh, Tesla's done. No more Tesla. And now it's slowly come back up for several reasons, right? Tesla deliveries are great. The stock is climbing. Tesla stock surges 10% as quarterly vehicle deliveries beat Wall Street estimates, right? So they had a good swing here, right? And that's good. But here's the volatility over the last 5 years of Tesla. And this is why some people are a little bit like, look, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, boom, boom, way down for a while, up, then way down for a little bit. Now back up, a lot of swings, a lot of volatility in Tesla. And for a lot of investors, that volatility represents more risk and it represents a game that a lot of folks don't want to play. This almost looks like cryptocurrency when you look at all those ups and downs, right? So that can be a deterrent for a lot of people. The ebb and flow that Tesla gives off is pretty wide range of swings. This is why you don't want to have all your money in a stock, in one stock, right? Let's see here. I got rid of all my ETFs and went full individual stocks. Okay, that's tough right there. That's tough right there. Altering current. Good for you. Happy for you. Let me know how that turns out for you. I am 98% ETFs index funds, right? 98% or maybe even more than 98%. But I'm going to start splitting that portfolio up into individual stocks, but I'm going to do everything that I'm talking to you guys, and you can come along for the ride over on the other platform. The first or second link in the description box below on YouTube is the link to the other platform. Come along for the ride. Let's buy some individual stocks together. Let's look at some 10Qs and look at some EP, some earnings per share, and some PE ratios and some revenue and some debt. Let's look at it together. I want you guys to help me grow this individual stock portfolio, right? We're going to go live in the other platform probably in the next few days, and we're going to start to talk about what I'm looking for. I'm building a checklist, right? I've already got the strategy, already got all that stuff, the mission, the goals, the risk tolerance about me. And I want you guys to help me build that portfolio over there on that other platform, right? So that's what we're doing over there. You can join that. You can, if you got to join as a paid member to really get all the videos and stuff, right? And it's nothing but $9 a month, right? And if you want to have a conversation with me personally for 20 minutes a month about your own personal investing, your own personal financial situation, that's like $24 a month. It's nothing. Tap on that link and go check it out. Right? I kind of extend myself a lot, meaning that I give a lot of time to helping people on an individual basis, and I don't mind doing it because that's what I'm here for. Somebody said today it is less than 18 years. McKinsey believes that in 2027, 75% of the companies currently quoted on the S&P will have disappeared. Interesting. McKinsey, interesting report, interesting study. That's the recent study by McKinsey. Very interesting. Okay, so we might check that out. I'm going to go back and look at that. I've never bought Apple, said less. FITLX has Microsoft, NVIDIA, and Google. Will buy more of it. I think that's an ETF, right? Apple is good. Diversity is a good thing. Apple's cool, but, I just don't play in Apple. I don't play in Apple, and I don't play in Tesla. I don't play in either one of them for no particular reason other than I've never really liked the companies, right? And so, yeah, I can make money, but I'd rather play with it's like when you play fantasy football, right? Do you really want the player that you just don't like on your team just because they can score you points? I'd rather root for a player I like. And so I'm sort of weird about that when it comes to stocks. I'm sort of the same way. I want to root for companies that I like and enjoy and use, right? And I've never owned, I don't have anything Tesla. I don't have a Tesla this or Tesla that. I haven't owned anything Apple, etc. So I don't really use them. So I'm not a big fan of them, but that's okay. That's not a big deal, right? It's individual stock picking. Let's see. Never had an Apple product. That's crazy. You managed dodging their products for so long, Sam said. I'm not trying to dodge their products. I just look at them as another product on the shelf, right? I don't look at them as some special big, no, they're just another company on the shelf. I don't even use Amazon. I sell books on Amazon. I got 2 books on Amazon, Smart Money Bro on Amazon, but I don't really use, this is real talk. You're going to think I'm crazy. I've only bought about 4 or 5 things off of Amazon. Maybe I can think of like 2 or 3 books, maybe 2 or 3 books, and I can think of at least a couple. So maybe 5 or 6 things off of Amazon ever, right? I'm not a big online shopper like that. So I don't even use Amazon very much. I used to sell on Amazon years and years ago, but let's see here. Bought Apple during the pandemic and now up 76%. Awesome. Congratulations to you, ET. Meta is, what does that mean? Meta is, what's that mean, Ben Frank? Let's see. I understand what you mean about Apple. Not smart to bet against Elon as a many-time winning founder. Elon doesn't do it for me. Nice guy, maybe a nice guy. I don't know. Maybe some people think he's not. I don't know much about the guy other than he bought Twitter a couple of years ago and changed it into X, and he, wants his freedoms back, to be able to say what he wants to say. That's cool. So I'm not a big fan. I don't follow after people like that, right? So he's probably he seems like he's a pretty good CEO. He has a following of people that really, really love him, and that's cool too. So that's all good. But I never foam at the mouth over a CEO, right? Even Jensen Huang, I don't foam at the mouth over a CEO. I just don't do it. Let's see. What do you think Chipotle will hit by the end of the year? Chipotle is an interesting company, guys. I don't know if you saw Chipotle had a ginormous 50-1 split. Ginormous 50-1 split. I like Chipotle. I eat at Chipotle a lot. And so I like their company. I think they have a little bit of upside. I think that they I haven't studied their fundamentals. I haven't studied I haven't done a lot of research about their numbers. But another one that I mentioned before, you guys need to think about is Kava, right? Kava. You guys know what Kava is? Does anybody know what Kava is? let me share my screen real quick and show you Kava real quick, guys. And we're kind of hanging out and having some fun, but we're also talking about we started talking about why NVIDIA CEO sold his shares of stock. It was a pre-planned sale, so nothing to be alarmed about, but we're kind of jumping into some other stocks as well, and that's cool too, right? So Kava, guys, it's sort of a Mediterranean Chipotle. Chipotle is a Mexican grill. Kava's sort of a Mediterranean grill, and they have a lot of good, solid, good for you food. And you see the stores popping up in a lot of different American cities. I think 300 stores in the last year. They were introduced as an IPO, I think about a year ago. They came on the scene. The company's been around for, more years, right? Like 20 years, 15 years or so. But they came on the scene just last year. And, when you look at let's look at their 1 year, let's see, year to date. Here's their year to date. I think they opened up somewhere around $40 or so, and now they're up to $90 per share. They've doubled. Now they've stayed pretty steady in the last, 3 or 4 weeks or so. They had some big increases right here, but they're going up. Kava is the same as Chipotle, and I've eaten there. It's a good place to eat. You kind of walk through the line and tell them what you want. Yes, I'll take that, and I'll put that. And same concept as Chipotle, right? But they also have some cold stuff that you can add to your food. Cold salads, and they have quinoa and lentils and some of the healthy stuff. So I think Kava's got some room for growth. The thing about Kava is when you look at their fundamentals, and it seems like they spent a lot of money on stores, opening new stores recently. So I think they need to kind of slow down on the new store openings and start to develop those stores and grow and so forth. And I think they will. And you see some recent stories here. Does Kava have a long growth trajectory? Just written a couple of days ago. 3 stocks that can double again mentions Kava in that article. So solid company, started back in 2006. Brett is the guy. 8,000 employees as of 2023. So solid growth, food, competing against Chipotle. And this is one of the reasons that a Chipotle, who was trading at $3,200 a share, wanted to split their stock so they could compete with getting new shareholders with a $94 or $80 stock called Kava, right? So I just want to kind of alert you guys to Kava, right? I think CMG is that right for Chipotle? So Chipotle is now trading at $61 per share because they split, right? Recently, a few weeks ago. But they've seen some growth as well. Year over year, boom. You could have got Chipotle for an adjusted $36, adjusted because we got to multiply that by 50. But an adjusted $36 up to $61. So you got these are some of the main players. Look, I know a lot of people that do not want to go to McDonald's, do not want to go to Burger King, despise going to Taco Bell, but they'll run right over to Kava or they'll run right over to Chipotle. So I think what we see in this space, in my opinion, is we see sort of in the last 5 or 6 years, the new fast food. The new fast food is not necessarily burger and fries because people are a lot more health conscious now, right? The new fast food is, let me go through the line and you tell me what I can put in there. And I think once you tell me what I can put in there, and I think what's going to happen is you're going to start seeing the Cavas and Chipotles with the drive-through lines where they'll make it. And I just think that's coming in the next few years. That's my own personal opinion, guys. But I think we'll see another type of Cava maybe jump up. So just something to think about as well. Guys, you guys got me digging into a bunch of stocks here, and that's cool. I don't mind. Question, what's your take on the NVIDIA antitrust lawsuit plus a Supreme Court case? So if you haven't heard or you don't know about what happened, NVIDIA is they're being sort of sued, but this is what you got to expect when you grow to the level that NVIDIA has grown to. I don't think it's anything out of the ordinary. It has to do with the NVIDIA case that I think reached the Supreme Court, or the major law, the reached the Supreme Court, dealt with the units that they were selling for, I think it was cryptocurrency mining or something like that. So my thing about these antitrust lawsuits and things like that, sorry about the tears on my eyes, but my thing about those things is just that it's natural. It's going to happen when you have a company that's, one of the largest one of the largest companies in the world, if not up there around the largest company in the world in terms of market cap. You're going to have these lawsuits that take place. Don't be alarmed about them. Don't be, if there's some breaking news that NVIDIA loses a case and they have to pay out $3 billion, don't trip. Don't trip. That's part of the breaking news or bad news. When you see a company stock go down a little bit, that's a buying opportunity for an investor, for a new investor. That's when you want to go and say, wait a minute, bad news. Okay, but let me look at the fundamentals. Fundamentals don't change. Their market share doesn't really necessarily change too much to an extent, right? It's a good company. Sure, you got a couple of lawsuits, no big deal. You know how many lawsuits Meta has had? You know how many lawsuits that, Google has had? My goodness, over the years. And the antitrust was all over. And the antitrust laws, guys, is basically laws to make sure a company doesn't get so big that they're monopolizing an industry or monopolizing a market, right? So when you get big like NVIDIA and you're taking up 60, 70, 80% of the AI space, you're going to have companies that sue you saying that you are hogging all of the space, right? So it happens. Don't be alarmed about that. Tai said, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm going to study more. Fantastic. You're welcome, Tai. And you can join me over there. You can take a look at my plan. We've done one video so far. We're gathering more people, and we're going to do other videos. But I have a video over there that talks about my plan and the things I just mentioned to you, Tai. So good luck to you. You can do it. Let's see. NVIDIA lawsuit is a knot flying in the eyes of them. Right. It's not much. What are your thoughts on monthly dividend ETFs? I have a few SCHD. Hey, I like dividend ETFs, but I don't want to get paid my dividends. I always say, put my dividends back into the company. I don't need to have a 10% dividend yield or a 15% dividend yield. Let me get rid of that question. I'm sorry. There's a question on the screen. Okay. So I don't need to have, I like my company minimizing dividends and putting that money back in the company. And even if they do, because I do own some value ETFs and so forth that pay out pretty good dividends, I just turn around and put that. When you read something like John Bogle, you read Bogle's books, and I wouldn't say I'm a Bogle head, but I'm a Bogle guy, right? When you read those books, it explains to you exactly why the exact compounding effect of dividends over the course of years. So just like your investments compound, right? Interest making interest on top of interest, you plug in those dividends back in, also compound. So whether they pay a lot of dividends, I do own some VYM, I think some VUG, some ETFs over on Vanguard that pay dividends, right? So I'm not against them. I just don't take the dividends, right? They're solid. Let's see here. Put a Q in front of your question if you have it. 2 shares of VOO is not enough by a long shot. You're right, Frank. You got to get more than that. But I don't know what the strategy is, right? I don't know what the strategy is, but you're right, Frank. You got to get more than 2 shares of VOO. I'm a big Tesla because of multiple future revenue streams. You're right. Living Art, let me admit that. What you just said is 100% correct. Tesla is sort of the NVIDIA of the automobile space, or the NVIDIA. The thing about Tesla is Tesla does so much in so many different areas. And you say, well, NVIDIA does the same thing. Well, NVIDIA does the same thing. But I have a little bit more faith in NVIDIA than I do in Tesla. Right? Tesla does have multiple streams of their of revenue, right? You're right, Living Art. Correct. 100%. Tesla Energy, Tesla Robotaxi. Look, Tesla going to the moon, I think it was, right? Tesla headed up to Mars or something, right? Tesla cars, but I never got into those type of folks. Let's see. Just keep investing in VOO for the long term. VOO is great to be in, right? S&P 500. It's going to be hard to lose if you invest in the S&P 500 with a long stretch. Guys, get those likes up. Hit the thumbs up button, guys. We got so many people in here that haven't done me the solid. That's old school, right? Do me a solid. That's why I got the phone back here. Old school, right? Do me a solid and hit that thumbs up button for me. Thank you, Mrs. Moore. And again, I'm way behind, guys, on the chat, so don't beat me up. And I'm going to scroll forward, see if I have any cues that jump out at me. Let's see. What is a good number of shares to buy in any stock? Listen, if you want to get to the point where you're doing trading and options and all that good stuff, it's nice to have 100 shares of a stock, right? 100 shares of a stock is always good. But spread it around, folks. Please spread it around. Don't have 100 shares in NVIDIA, and that's all you own. You are destroying. You are greatly enhancing the chance of losing all your money if you have all your shares in 2 stocks. You should have 20 stocks. You should have 15 to 20 to 30 stocks. And that's what you should have if you're individually investing in these individual stocks, right? Let's see here, around $20. I have a 3 ETF portfolio, Anderson said, and some individual stocks included. It's a good idea to use my stocks as part of my portfolio. Is it a good idea to use my stocks as a part of my portfolio, Anderson? Anderson, there's nothing wrong with having a 3 ETF portfolio only. And if you want to have a few a few individual stocks in there too, that's cool. Nothing wrong with that. A few meaning, okay, it depends on how you're allocated. Let's not forget the allocation. We talk about diversification, but you got to think about the allocation of your portfolio. How much of your portfolio is in individual stocks and how much is in ETFs? I would say if you own 5 individual stocks, I would not have 80% of the weight of my portfolio in 5 individual stocks and the other 20% being in 3 ETFs. No, to me, that's the wrong allocation because you have too much wrapped up into risk. You can do it, but I wouldn't necessarily suggest that. I would suggest that if you have 80% of your portfolio in ETFs and you only own 5 individual stocks that make up the other 20%, that's better. Because again, less risk. And I'm a risk averse person. So when you hear me talk, keep that in mind. You got to always discern who you're getting your information from, right? If you turn to somebody else on YouTube and they give you information, you have to know, what is it about that person? Why are they giving me that type of information? Right? And I'm telling you point blank, to the point, boom, boom. No, I'm not sugarcoating anything. I am a risk averse type of person. I like low risk when it comes to individual stocks, but I like a little more aggressive risk when it comes to growth ETFs, right? So I like to play it that way. But if I had to rate myself overall, I like a little bit of lower risk, right? So I would never tell you to go put all your money in Bitcoin or have 75% of your money in Dogecoin, right? That's just not what I do because that's my style. But every time you listen to anybody talk about stocks, me included, try to understand and decipher and discern what is their investing style, because that's going to drive the information they're giving you. Very important you try to do that. Thanks for that question, Anderson. Appreciate that. I had Apple since it was around $30. Wow. Let's see. Somebody said, "Oh my God, I hate Amazon, but still use it." Yeah, that's way behind. I'm like 15 minutes behind, guys. Jensen Huang is a more reserved CEO than Elon. 100%. Sam, I am. That's part of the reason. Remember, I'm pretty risk averse. So that's why a personality like Elon is not a personality that I'm going to be gravitated towards, because I like the Warren Buffetts. I like the John Bogles. I like the J.L. Collins. I like the more conservative type of investor over the long term. I don't like the investor whose stock is going way up here and way down here next week, then way up here and way down here the following week. That's Tesla, and I'm not into that. So the CEO is a little bit, I think the CEO of Tesla is a little bit of a loose cannon, so to speak, in my opinion. Probably a nice guy if you know him one-on-one. This is no assault on his personality. It's just saying his company and his style is not one that's conducive to my investment strategy. That's why it's important to know your investment strategy and the investment strategy of the person that you're watching or listening to, right? So Tish Wash, get the thumbs up. Thank you so much, Tish Wash. Meta is very political. That's why, listen, we talked about Palantir a few weeks ago, right? Some of you know about Palantir and the work they did with the federal government, and now the work they're trying to do with the more on the commercial side of their business, leaving the federal government contracting work and coming over to the commercial side of their business, right? But Palantir their CEO is Elon Musk like, right? Very political, very, and so Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, he's not really like that. He's a pusher and an aggressive guy, right? But he's still more middle of the road, right? You guys check out Palantir and their CEO. You'll see what I'm saying. Let's see. Kava is food resistant. What's that mean? I see Kava in Midtown. Never been. Go check out Kava, Smart Girl, New York, NYC. Go check out Kava. Kava's a cool little spot, cool little place. It's a fast food. I think it's the new fast food, right? That's my opinion. The new fast food. Salads, quinoa, like McDonald's ain't offering quinoa, right? Spinach, right? So something to think about. Let's see here. I am wrong. What am I wrong about, Neil? Let's say, hey, I'm late to hey, good to be here, the Willy Willow. Good to have you here. Thank you. And rewind this thing back, because in the beginning of this video, I talked about the fact that NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang is selling NVIDIA stock. But the reason is because it's a pre-planned sale, an agreement that happened, last year that said when he would be selling his stock. And it's an agreement that all insiders have to partake in to sell their stock at specific times or specific amounts down the road to avoid any shenanigans. And it's basically an SEC rule, right? 10.3B51. I think I said it right. Right. And then we talked about NVIDIA and how NVIDIA is still positioned to do well. It's not a scare that the CEO is selling their stock and all that good stuff. So don't be alarmed. Don't be hyped up. 10B51. I'm sorry, 10B51. 10B51. Right. But we talked about and we talked about a bunch of other stocks, right? We looked at Broadcom, looked at Tesla, looked at Cava, CAVA, looked at Chipotle, looked at some others, Amazon, looked at Apple and so forth, just to sort of see. Let's see, Jacksonville here. Good to have you, SS Industrial. Should you have 1 to 3 ETFs or just one? Gigglebox, love that question. Thank you so much for asking that question, Gigglebox. That's an awesome, awesome question. I appreciate it. Should you have 1 to 3 ETFs or just one? Your portfolio can be complete with one S&P 500 ETF. It really, really can. It really, really can. However, you may want to have a little bit more diversification. Instead of just owning the top 500 companies in America in a bucket called an S&P 500 ETF, you may want to have an ETF in different sectors, or an ETF that is heavily loaded in energy, or an ETF that's heavily loaded with healthcare companies or an ETF that's heavily loaded. That's the beauty of an ETF. You can find an ETF that's tailored towards your likes and what you want. So could you have one ETF? You could, because it means you own a bucket of stocks. However, most people like to have at least 2 or 3 or 4 ETFs so that they're playing in different games of the market. Me, I have probably 7 or 8 ETFs that I play in, right? Whether it's VNQ, VUG, even some I don't have I have VOO. I really don't have VOO. I own the S&P 500 of VOO, but it's similar to VOO. But the point is that I have a number of ETFs. You don't have to do that. That's a personal preference. You can get it all in 1 or 2. You can get it all in 1 and set it, forget it, go look at it every now and then, right? And you're invested in the top 500 companies. You can just do that. You don't have to do all this other stuff, guys. Growing your money and wealth building does not have to be as complicated as we want to make it. But for some of us, it's kind of a fun game to play as well, right? And that's why people go with individual stocks and they try to pick this and pick that, but it's not necessarily necessary. Thank you for that question, Gigglebox. I think that's a question a lot of people have. Let's see. I have a 401k account plus an individual account. Awesome. Somebody said 80-20 into Kava. Kava. Let's see. 80-20 sounds wiser. Let's see. I'm scrolling down, guys. Kava is a small investment. I agree. Somebody said I'm all in on Bitcoin. I hope you don't mean all your money, Zach. Bitcoin is the future, Ben Frank said. Okay. I'm not convinced. I only own 0.00001% of my portfolio is in cryptocurrency. Ethereum. Let's see. 99% of people suggest listen to Warren Buffett and just buy the S&P 500. Brandon said, good point, Brandon. Right? That's most people, because most people, listen, so let me get this out because I haven't said it. It needs to be said. The average high-powered financial advisor, financial person working on Wall Street, who's been picking stocks for 30 or 40 years, they still lose to the S&P 500 ETF or index fund. They still lose to the S&P 500 ETF or index fund. So if you just invest in an S&P 500 index fund or ETF on Schwab, Fidelity, Robinhood, whatever, iShares, BlackRock, Vanguard, wherever you invest, if you just do that, you're going to be fine. There's been studies that shown that you can pick stocks at random, or you can pick stocks with a lot of research, a lot of study. Nobody knows. Not even the people that have been there doing it for 30, 40 years. So as a new investor, you can easily make a whole bunch of money and win in the investment game just by having one ETF called the S&P 500. Right? And I think somebody mentioned Buffett, because Warren Buffett has advised his potential widow and kids and so forth, and to just invest in the S&P 500 ETF, maybe an 80-20, I think he talks about a 70-30 split, bond ETF and S&P 500 ETF, and that's all you got to do. And you'll come out ahead of 80% of all professionals that do it for a living, right? Let's see. Somebody said, what is the ticker for Kava? CAVA, Kava's ticker. Somebody help that person out. CAVA. Thanks, Mrs. Moore. Perfect. Elon is a weirdo. I don't know about that, but he could be a good person. I don't know. I don't know him personally. I don't want to tear him down personally. I don't know him personally, but he definitely is kind of a fiery person, I think. Somebody says Elon's personality definitely affects Tesla. His Twitter rants be going crazy. I haven't watched him that close on Twitter, but I know he owns Twitter. Let's see here. Question: what percentage would you go with as far as having ETFs and single stocks? So in terms of allocation, Willie Wilo, in terms of allocation, it depends on a lot of stuff. How do you feel about single stocks? Do you feel like you can invest in them? You feel you enjoy researching them? Maybe you have 30% of your portfolio individual stocks, 70% ETFs. Maybe you love individual stock picking and you've been doing it for a long time. You know how to research and so forth. Maybe you go 70% individual stocks, 30% ETFs. The allocation is really a personal preference thing. It's really a personal preference thing. As you get older, some people say you want to get more conservative as you get older. So as you get older, maybe you want to make sure you're in more ETFs than individual stocks. So you don't have to try to play the stock game so much. That's your choice, right? But a lot of this stuff is individual preference. Let's see here. Let's see. I'm going to scroll back down. ETF with NVIDIA and Kava. Makes yours. Kava is not in Columbus, Ohio yet. Sounds good. Yeah, it is good, but I think it's coming. I think their growth is going to be there. So we'll see what happens. Question: I have a pretty diverse portfolio: the Mag7, S&P 500, a couple of other ETFs, but I have over 100 shares of NVIDIA, which is more than I have of my other investments. Am I wrong? Great question, Juanita. I appreciate you asking that question. I'm going to highlight that one real quick. Let me see how long ago that was. That was about 5 minutes ago. Okay, cool. So I have a pretty diverse portfolio. You own the Mag7, you own the S&P, you own a few other ETFs, and you have 100 shares in NVIDIA, which is heavy. You are heavy in NVIDIA. I don't know how much you have total of your total portfolio, but it sounds like it might be heavy in NVIDIA. Is that okay? Is it not okay? What else do you own? Is that, when it comes to allocation, is that 100 shares of NVIDIA, is that 80% of your portfolio? If that's the case, then it's too much. You have too much wrapped up into one company. That company falls tomorrow, 2 weeks from now, 6 months from now, a year from now. See, here's the thing, guys. The thing about owning a lot of one company, or the thing about owning only the Mag7, the problem is as not a seasoned investor, or maybe you are not, but you have to know when to get rid of that stock in order to not lose money. You have to know when to sell. And the problem is here. We all know when, not all, but a lot of us know when to buy a stock. Well, I think let me buy that stock, right? That's easy. The easy part is buying the stock. The hard part is getting rid of the stock at the right time. That's the problem where everybody misses out on. Most people miss out on. They just don't know what the bottom is, right? And because of that, you own the Mag7 and you own 100 shares of it in NVIDIA. When do you get rid of NVIDIA and cash out? Do you cash out a little bit or a lot? When do you cash out a little bit? Those are the questions that are hard to answer. And so when you have a lot, because again, the 7 companies in the Mag7 weren't the 7 15, 20 years ago, and won't be the same 7 in 15 years. So at what point in the next 15 years do you unload Apple? Do you unload Tesla? Do you unload Amazon? At what point? Or do you ever? And just ride the wave down? I don't know. And so when you have, that's why the allocation in my portfolio is now 98% ETF index fund, 2% individual stock. However, it's going to change a little bit as we dig deeper into individual stocks on the other platform, right? But my allocation is going to stay heavier ETF index fund because I'm a risk-averse person. I don't want to have the risk of having 15. Now, because I'm risk-averse, it means that I'm not going to enjoy some of the highs. But it also means I'm not going to experience some of the low lows, right? So are you wrong, Juanita, for having that allocation split? Not necessarily. It depends on what weight of NVIDIA of those 100 shares is a part of your overall portfolio. Okay, great question. Love that question. That's an awesome question. I have Vanguard S&P 500 recently, been looking to VDE. That's cool. Energy is always good to have because we always need an energy, right? So there's nothing wrong with an energy sector or energy stocks as well. I invest in an S&P 500 ETF and AI ETF plus NVIDIA. Fantastic. But if you're going to own individual stocks and it's going to be a large portion of your portfolio, be sure you get your various stocks, right? And you don't just have it all wrapped into one. And I'm scrolling down to try to catch up, guys. I haven't seen any cues. If I missed your question, I'm sorry. I have 300 shares of NVIDIA, but I'm cashing in Friday morning, going to cover a short at 119. That's cool, right? Or if you're doing calls and puts and so forth, that's fine too, right? Let's see here. That's not possible that you lost with NVIDIA or if you boom, boom, boom. I'm sorry to jump back, but would the 70% be allocated to S&P? Ask that question again, Florence, with a Q next to it. Ask the question in full total, and I'll highlight it if I can find it. So I just want you guys to not overreact when you see something that you might have saw in that story about Jensen Huang and him selling or getting rid of shares of stock. It's a normal thing. It's normal. It's normal for an insider. And when I say insider, that includes CEOs, executives, and people that have more information than we have. It's not odd to see these people sell their stock. And a lot of times they're doing it because of a planned sale so that it doesn't look like there's shenanigans going on, right? Let's see. Wasn't to say I started investing after watching your video, but about having at least 30,000 saved that one should consider investing and growing. I have 35,000. So Willow. Okay, I understand. Fantastic. Thank you. Great for clearing that up. Let's see. Altering current. Thanks. Let's see. It's pronounced Jensen Huang. Huang. I thought it was Huang. Huang. I'm sorry. Jensen Huang. I'm sorry. Sorry for mispronouncing his name. That's a mistake on my part. Thanks, Michelle. I appreciate you too. I appreciate you. I appreciate you appreciating me. I appreciate you guys in the chat. My goodness, we got some intelligent folks. Some intelligent folks. And some intelligent investors with great information. If you rewatch this, please do yourself a favor and check out the chat as you watch, right? Yes, NVIDIA, I believe, does have another wave coming. They do have another wave coming. Again, they have an earnings report coming out in August, and there's going to be, again, breaking news or bad news. So breaking news is coming. How are they matching up with their earnings based on projections? That's coming. And when that comes, I think it's going to be another positive, and I think we'll see an increase in the shares the price per share at that point. EPS is still good. Earnings per share is still good for them, right? Still where it should be. Revenue still looks good for them. Again, I read earlier that they're in the gaming, they're in the crypto, they're in all different areas and phases. Let's see here. Seattle in the house. Good to have you, Seattle. Big hero. Good to have you here. Let's see. Why do some people have a first name that is also a last name? I don't know, Zach. Good question. All right. So I don't see any more questions. Are there any more Qs in the house? Somebody said AVGO. Am I liking AVGO? So if you don't know, AVGO is Broadcom, right? Do I like Broadcom? I do like Broadcom. I think Broadcom is a little bit on the conservative side, right? Sorry about that. I think Broadcom is a little on the conservative side, but I do like Broadcom to enjoy a little bit of wave of the AI space, semiconductor space. I think Broadcom is one that is worth researching. I don't tell you what to buy. I ain't telling you what to buy. I ain't telling you how many shares to buy. I am not a stock market guru, and you can never say that I'm a stock market guru. I'm a self-proclaimed person who's always learning. And you just happen to come along with me when I'm learning. So I don't have all the answers. I don't have the latest and greatest go buy this stock pick. I ain't telling you that. I will never tell you that. But I will tell you to go do your research on Kava, to go do your research on Broadcom, to go do your research on AMD. That's what I'm going to tell you to do. Because I don't have the answers. Full disclosure, point blank. I like to get that out there. Somebody said is it overlaid to have an S&P 500 ETF and an S&P 500 index fund? Yes, that's overlay, Emma. Absolutely. Great question, Emma. That's you're overlapping. Right? So if you put a whole bunch $10,000 in your S&P 500 ETF and then you put $10,000 into your S&P 500 index fund, you basically just put $20,000 into the same fund because it's an overlap. It's the same stuff. The same companies are in the bucket. Right? You could just have one S&P 500 ETF and put all 20,000 into that one bucket. It's the same difference. So you do got to think about overlap when you're investing in ETFs, okay? There are value ETFs and there are growth ETFs. Growth ETFs are have companies in the bucket that are looking to grow above average, right? Value ETFs are companies in the bucket that are looking to have average returns, but they're very steady companies, right? We got Winnipeg in the house. Let's see here. 400 shares of PH. I like Broadcom a lot. There's some sleepers out there that aren't named NVIDIA. Somebody said NVIDIA CEO wants to be a rock star. I don't think he wants to be a rock star. Dude has been around for a long time. But you know what I notice he wants to be? He wants to appeal to young investors. So therefore, if you look at the what is it called? The thumbnail for this YouTube video, you look at the thumbnail. I have the guy in a leather jacket. It's becoming sort of his signature. He's taken sort of the blueprint, the playbook from what is the guy from Apple, Steve Jobs, right? Who would come out and dress everybody in the black turtleneck and the black pants, right? And that became his signature. And I think what Jensen Huang is doing is he's trying to develop a signature. So whenever he talks to his shareholders, he comes out on stage with a black leather jacket and black pants, right? He's trying to appeal to a younger crowd, younger investors. You got to know that, right? That's what these CEOs do. They don't want to come out in a suit or a sport coat, most of them. Some do, some don't, right? I think Bezos talks to his folks in sport coats, right? But hey, that's what the guy's trying to do. You can't be mad at him, though, right? I mean, he's just trying to do what he got to do. He has a company and he's running his company, and this is what he's trying to do. So I'm not mad at him for that, right? Let's see. I might be skipping a few questions, guys, so please don't beat me up. Somebody said, how do I choose the right subsector for a bond ETF? Bond ETF is totally up to you. How do you choose the right subsector? How does it match your goals for investing, right? If you want to know how to choose anything, ETF, single stock, bond, whatever, how does it match up with your goals, your values, your strategy, your core beliefs about the stock market? How does it match up with you, right? So this is why I tell people you have to first figure out your overall mission, your overall goals, your overall strategies, your overall values and core beliefs. When you figure that out, it drives the decision making on what you should purchase and what you shouldn't purchase, right? If it doesn't match up with who you are on paper as an investor, then maybe you shouldn't get it. Whether the fundamentals meet what the fundamentals got to match up too, right? Some of the technical analysis, the money, the revenue, the growth, right? The debt to those ratio, all that stuff has to match up too, right? Somebody says Steve Jobs was anybody buying SQQQ? Steve Jobs was a genius. Guys, all right, here's the deal. It was a great live today. Man, this live gave me some energy. It morphed from why NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang, I got it right, Huang is selling NVIDIA stock. We talked about it. If you didn't catch it, rewind this thing back to the beginning and check it out. You got to do me a favor. Check out my partner, Mint Mobile, in the description box, right? I use them. Great company. But also check out 24 Laws of Money in the description box, free ebook, Principles of Money. Also check out some of the videos that are down there as well, and consider going over to the other platform. It's a link in the description box, the first or second link, to come study these individual stocks with me. Let's use my portfolio to grow a portfolio of individual stocks over on the other platform. Guys, if this video was helpful, do me a favor and give me a thumbs up in the chat box and let me know. Give me a thumbs up in the chat box and let me know if this video was helpful, right? We got Laker Raider in the house. I wonder who they're a fan of, right? Laker Raider in the house. Thank you, Artemisa. I appreciate it. so much, guys. I appreciate you being here and sharing your wisdom with me and sharing your wisdom with the other folks in the chat. And I hope I was able to give you something of value on this video, right? Something of value to help you with your individual stock picking or your individual investment, your individual portfolio. I hope I was able to give you something of value, guys. Yeah, hit that thumbs up. Share the link with somebody you know. I know it's a long live, and I know some people write me. You guys wouldn't believe this. Some people write me and they say, man, you need to cut that down to 10 minutes. I don't want to listen to an hour live. And I get it. Some people are like that. But this is more of a show. Some things it's hard to break down into 9 or 10 minutes. Some things I have to say about certain things, it takes a little longer. I'm a little older, all right? Bear with me, all right? Listen, I just dropped a really important video yesterday. That's a really important 10 or 12-minute video. I still do those videos, but I really enjoy the lives because it gives me a chance to sort of finish a thought, right? Really go into something that's a deeper thought and answer some questions for you guys, all right? So I appreciate you guys here. No, we're not dumping NVIDIA, two-wheel boomer. Don't you dump NVIDIA. I'm explaining in the beginning of this video, the first 30 minutes or so, why NVIDIA CEO sold the stock. And if you read the stories in the MSNBC and Yahoo Finance, you'll see they sold that Jensen Huang sold stock, got rid of it. That's all I was doing. No big deal. Salute to you guys. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. If you're celebrating today, enjoy today as a celebration of July 4th. And hey, as I always say, the best person who's going to take care of the old you is the young you. Do me a favor. Take good care of yourself, guys. But don't forget to take care of other people as well. Drop me a comment below once you see this on YouTube. Until the next video, peace.